5 strategies that I use to improve my HbA1c level. My name is Yasser. I've lived with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years. I currently have a HbA1c level of 48 millimoles per mole, and every diabetic that knows that I have a HbA1c level of 48 millimoles per mole asks me, what can I do to improve my HbA1c level? Some of the strategies that I use to help me have better control with my diabetes. The first thing I do is pre-bolusing. So I normally take my rapid-acting insulin for my meals about 15 to 20 minutes before I start eating. Rapid-acting insulin has an onset of action within 15 minutes and a peak about 1 or 2 hours after giving the insulin. So that means you give the insulin time to work. The second strategy is walking. Particularly, I like to walk when I notice that my blood glucose levels are a lot higher after a meal. Times where my blood sugars would be higher after a meal would be after I've had a takeaway, for example. So I know my body's going to struggle and the insulin is going to struggle with managing that peak following on from a high fatty meal. So what I tend to do is go for a walk after those meals alongside giving my insulin for those meals. And that really helps with managing that postprandial peak, which is the peak after you've consumed food or carbohydrates. The third point is using low carbohydrate options. So I always have diet options in terms of drinks whenever I have soft drinks. And the reason why I do that is, yes, I could inject for the sugar in a full sugar drink, but is it really worth that peak afterwards? Is it really worth that spike of your sugar levels? And for me, it's not worth it. So what I do is I have the low carbohydrate options alongside many other diabetics that do the same thing. It's just not worth that amount of sugar, which really leads to a huge spike in your blood glucose levels. The other fourth point is when you are eating, try eating foods with a lower glycemic index. And what that means is that breakdown is slower. And because that breakdown of the carbohydrates is slower, it also means that you have less of a spike after eating. Particularly when I have things like a sandwich, which has white bread, you can really see a big spike in your blood glucose levels. Try incorporating whole grain options, which mean that you have less of a spike. And finally, using a continuous glucose monitor. The sponsor for this video is Cybionics, and they have a continuous glucose monitor called the GS1. I've made a few short videos about my experience with the GS1, and it's really changed the way I can manage my diabetes. It means that I have data every 5 minutes and I can look at trends and I can analyze what's happening with those trends. These are things that I never had when I was taking finger prick tests. So the beauty of a trend is you know from the trajectory of your blood glucose readings if you're going to be going low, and then you can counteract that low by having some like a sugary drink or something to counteract that low. You know when you're going high, and you can look at that trend and manage accordingly. So hopefully these are some meaningful things that you can employ into your diabetes management. And let me know if you have any other strategies to improve your HbA1c level in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.